Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So last year when I made the WoW Rift video, I wasn't sure how it would be received given the overwhelming majority of my audience consists of PC players, but it turns out a lot of you enjoyed it, even those who don't play WoW Rift, and I was asked by dozens of you to make a follow-up episode talking about even more champions. So you know what, we're gonna do that for today. Having gone through every single champion, I was actually surprised to see the sheer number of differences between the two games. You'd be hard-pressed to even call them the same. I mean, I knew there would be a few alterations, but legit half the cast has a difference here or there, so there's a lot to unpack. Anyways, we'll be going through about, let's see, 12 champions today. I was intending to only go over 10, but most of these changes are minor, so I won't be spending too much time on them. Just like before, be sure to let me know in the comments down below which alterations you think would be good to potentially include in the PC version. And I might as well ask you to kindly leave a like and subscribe after watching if you enjoyed it. Let's begin. First champion is gonna be Diana, one of the most consistently popular champions in the game after they turned her from an assassin to more of a diver by swapping Lunar Rush and Moonfall around. Moonfall in the PC version takes the form of a mini Orianna ultimate that pulls nearby enemies towards her and explodes her for each target struck, allowing her to do insane damage if she pulls in more than 2. Diana's ultimate follows the same principle in WoW Rift, but the functionality is a bit different. Instead of an activation whose damage is determined by the number of targets, it's more akin to a Galio W, wherein she enters a charge for up to 3/4 of a second. During this time, enemies are slowed and the ability's damage ramps up. Upon activation, she hits everyone up front and pulls them together, making it almost identical to an Orianna ultimate if you think about it. An extra thing is that all targets also get tagged by Moonlight, giving Diana 2 potential resets instead of 1. I'm honestly not sure which of the two I like more though, because they both have their appeal. League Moonfall makes Diana an amazing teamfight burst diver, whereas WoW Rift Moonfall trades teamfight pressure for more consistency. They still do the same basic thing, mind you, where there's a small delay before the damage, but the extra Moonlight stack is quite handy, especially if enemies try to run away after you use it. The ability to immediately activate the skill for guaranteed, albeit reduced damage makes the WoW Rift Moonfall a bit more appealing to me though. Next champion will be Lulu. Once again, her behavior between the two platforms are practically the same, but she has an interesting idea to her whimsy, making it more of a control tool. Basically how it works is Lulu places down picks in a spot that chills there until any champion, friend or foe, walks into that spot. Afterwards, it behaves just like how Whimsy does on PC. So you can think of it almost like Hui's Gaze of the Abyss, where Pix just stands in a spot. I'm not certain whether Lulu still has the ability to point and click cast it or not like how Bard can with Caretaker Shrine. WoW Rift players, if you can clear that up, that would be great. But assuming she can't, changing his property to use Pix as a sort of zoning tool, such as putting him, her, it, whatever, behind you while running away adds more functionality than simply just pointing, clicking, and calling it a day. Granted, Lulu's a very annoying champion to deal with already, and the last thing we want is to give her more versatility, but I would be more forgiving towards Polymorph if it was designed this way. Okay, let's talk about NooNoo and his Snowball Barrage. The PC version has him rapidly pelting you with snowballs that slow you, and then if you stay within the circle after 3 seconds, it explodes to deal damage and root everyone else around him. A respectable ability in its own right, but the WoW Rift version adds more to it. Not only does the explosion deal max health damage instead of flat, but the damage and root duration both scale based on the number of snowballs the target was hit by. So compared to PC where the root and damage is fixed, over in WoW Rift it's contingent on how many snowballs you slam the target with. The damage is no small amount either. Obviously take the scaling with a grain of salt since WoW Rift has different parameter guidelines, but at full charge you're looking at 15% max health damage at base. This of course is a big buff for both tank and AP NooNoo. I think this would be better to have than the PC version due to the fact that it gives the player more agency in who they want to target. Snowball Barrage attacks enemies in a cone based on the direction you were throwing it in, so positioning NooNoo in a spot where he can affect the most amount of targets in exchange for a higher reward ceiling would be a very constructive change in my opinion, rather than simply just mashing the E key to tag everyone once. So if you recall in my first episode, I remarked on how WoW Rift made it so Pastic basic abilities would have actual actives like on Teemo and Vi for example, which makes them feel better to play. There's also Twisted Fate and then later Vayne. The bonus attack speed and 4-hit passive are still there, but they gave him an active on top of that, wherein he gets more attack speed for a short time, and more notably, enemy champions hit would trigger loaded dice. For the record, I think having any active is better than no active, but I don't know how to feel about the loaded dice component. Having this ability would mean TF essentially gets bonus gold by just attacking, so if you were to build attack speed, you'd basically get paid off big if you're allowed to strike enemy champions during that time. There's a reason Riot took out Kleptomancy and heavily nerfed the gold generation on first strike for ranged champions. It's just an uninteractive way to reward you for doing pretty much nothing. Mind you, it's only for 3 seconds. Realistically, you can only get maybe 5 to 6 attacks, which averages to around I would say 30 gold, so I might be blowing it out of proportion. The extra attack speed buff would be a nice addition for sure though. This next one is actually going to be 2 champions, and I'm mostly pointing to their side quest. Back in Season 14, I believe, Riot added meaningful side objectives depending on which champions were on opposing sides. They had a few already like Thresh and Lucian, Rengar and Kha'Zix, but they added a couple more like Bel'Veth and Jax, Zed and Shen, and Nasus and Renekton. On PC, whichever brother scored the kill got an even bigger increase in size when using their ultimate, and the buff duration got extended. From what I can tell, it doesn't outright state how much longer it's extended for, so I'm assuming it's a duration refresh, but all things considered, this is a pretty lousy quest. The Wild Rift Nemesis quest, however, is a different story. If Renekton scores a kill on Nasus to win the rivalry, whenever using Dominus he gains Infinite Fury, meaning all attacks are fully empowered. Infinite Fury on Renekton makes him a completely different champion. He does Giga AoE damage and heals a bunch, 1.5 seconds stun for days, 40% armor shred on a Z. The difference between a Renekton with only 1 empowered ability versus 3 is practically night and day. Should Nasus pull off the win, however, he too gets a game-changing buff. Alright, now listen. This is dreadful. His Q does AoE damage. One of the core weaknesses of DKing's Q is that it's single target. Even if Siphoning Strike does a billion damage, he has to take you out one at a time. But with this? Bro, imagine doing 1200 damage on the entire enemy team with a single Q. That'd be freaking insane. Obviously, this can only happen if you have Nasus and Renekton on opposite sides, but that might be the single most powerful side objective buff in the game. To be honest, I wish they did more of this. Riot's usually too scared to implement things like this out of fear that it can mess up balance, but personally I think it would make the game a lot more enjoyable. Next champion is going to be Misfortune. The main difference I want to talk about is her passive. Love Tap in PC causes MS autos to deal 1.5 to 2 times damage when attacking a different enemy than the one she just shot. So while other AD carries typically prefer to focus down one target at a time, MF is at her best when alternating between 2 targets, because when doing so, her auto attacks basically do double damage at level 13 onwards. Love Tap on Wild Rift, however, is a 3-hit passive that can proc through either attacks or abilities. Upon triggering it, the target will take bonus damage from her, kind of like press the attack. In addition, Double Up also applies max Love Tap to the second enemy hit, giving her a way to automatically obtain the bonus damage. It's entirely possible for her to get her passive on multiple targets before setting off bullet time for a huge boost. Much like Diana, both versions of Misfortune's passives have their place. The PC version is more auto-attack centric and rewards target selection, while the mobile version encourages setting up on enemies before dumping her load on them. It's definitely an it depends type thing. Some situations you'd want the former and some you'd want the latter. It comes down to who you're up against and who's on your team. Next one is Morichiser, a very minor change but one I think is worth mentioning, Death's Grasp. It behaves the same way it does on PC, but it comes with an actual slow on it. It's only 30% and for 1 second, but holy shit guys, the Manlands did it. They gave Morichiser crowd control. Can you believe it? By the way, if you're wondering where the magic pen is, they moved it over to his passive, which additionally acquires stacks upon enemy takedowns. Very nice to have. Anyway, it's a really small amount of magic pen though, almost negligible. But I mean I might take it if it means we finally get crowd control on the big guy. It means we don't have to rush Rylai's first item just to be relevant. Next champion is gonna be Zyra. Curiously, Zyra is a brand new splash shot on Wild Rift. It's a cleaner look to her and more menacing too, which is nice. Onto the actual kit though, her Q, E, and ultimate are the same. The big difference is her W. Rampant growth on PC simply allows her to plant a seed on command, giving her a way to fight immediately should a fight break out without any seeds nearby. But on Wild Rift, it's a damaging ability, marking a target enemy champion and dealing damage over time while applying a small slow. Moreover, nearby plants will do double damage against that target, and I imagine they automatically lock on to the champion in question. This reminds me a lot of Volswain's Decrepify Torment combo where Beatrice locks onto whichever enemy is tagged by Swain Z. Now, there's an important distinction to make between PC and Wild Rift Zyra. PC Zyra naturally spawns seeds around her just by existing, whereas Wild Rift Zyra spawns plants upon damaging enemy champions, meaning she does not spawn seeds naturally whatsoever. Kinda hard to compare the two W's because they take into account the playstyle differences between the two iterations of Zyra. But as far as I can tell, Wild Rift Zyra seems better in almost every way. One of the biggest pain points of PC Zyra is that she can face consistency issues due to her plants spawning erratically. Wild Rift Zyra I assume has a lower DPS ceiling but can get plants more easily given they spawn when her Q and E land on enemy champions. Zyra mains, I'm curious, which one would you prefer? Got a couple more to go, let's talk about Sivir next. Sivir has two different things about her between Wild Rift and the main game. First, her spell shield has a forgiveness element to it, reflecting half the cooldown if it fails to block anything. Never a bad thing. The real change though is to her ultimate. On the Hunt on PC gives a long-lasting speed boost to the entire party, refreshing the duration of it when she scores a takedown, effectively giving her party a tempo increase throughout the entire length of a teamfight. While active, she gains a mini Quick Blades effect, where auto attacks reduce her ability cooldowns by half a second each. Wild Rift Silver's ultimate is the same, long-lasting speed boost, and instead of an on-attack cooldown, it's just a flat lower cooldown on her Q, W, and E for the duration. However, there's one more effect. Auto attacks and abilities give Silver bonus AD per stack up to 8 times, and upon getting 8 stacks, she turns the 15% movement speed to 40%. I'm fairly certain this ultimate's straight up a direct upgrade over the PC version. She doesn't get to extend the duration multiple times upon takedown, but you do get free AD, flat cooldown reduction, and a potentially higher tempo increase with its own refresh. I would 100% go with this over the PC version without question. Next one we'll talk about is Vayne. Like Teemo, Vi, and Twisted Fate, Vayne has only 2 abilities, her Q and E. Her W is just a second passive. A very strong one mind you, but a passive nonetheless. So they decided to give her an active to go along with it. Bonus attack speed for the next 3 basic attacks within 5 seconds, and she heals for 40% of the damage dealt from silver bolts during that time. A fairly inoffensive buff, and it gives Vayne the ability to engage in burst trades, pop her W, get some shots in, and heal a bit from the silver bolts. You can even time it to activate right before the 3rd auto attack hits an enemy champion to get 2 quick heals back to back. I definitely think Vayne got feature crept a bit by all the other marksmen. She was once considered the hypercarry 1v9 marksman, but now it feels like others can do her job better, plus something else. So making her more of a short burst trade champion can return some individuality to her. That being said, it would make her even more annoying as a ranged top laner, so maybe we shouldn't. I think we can do 2 more. Let's talk about Wukong. Not much of a difference between the 2 platforms, but Wild Rift Wukong has one unique aspect to him, namely his golden staff. On PC, his Q is called Crushing Blow, dealing bonus damage and shredding up to 30% of the target's armor. In my opinion, one of the best auto attack resets in the game in a vacuum. Low mana cost, higher attack range, good damage, armor shred, and even a cooldown refund to go along with it. But on Wild Rift, instead of the armor shred, Wukong's Q passively deals 1.5 times more damage. A noticeable difference is that Golden Staff has total AD scaling, so in essence against squishy targets, Wild Rift Q hits like a truck, whereas PC Q is better when fighting champions who build armor or have a bit more bulk to them. Again, circumstantial, this version of Q might be reminiscent of old Wukong, who was more of an assassin than a bruiser, although even back then he had the armor shred. Being a top main, I think 30% armor reduction is way better than 50% bonus damage every so often if you ask me. Golden Staff might be better for a jungle Wukong. Some minor differences though are that his passive only needs to stack 3 times to get the full bonus instead of 5, and his clone duration scales too, up to 4.5 seconds compared to a flat 3.25 on PC. I wouldn't mind having those on PC to be honest. Last but not least will be Garen. Wild Rift Garen's basically a hybrid of current Garen and his pre-Juggernaut rework iteration. His E doesn't get more ticks of damage when building attack speed, and his passive is missing health regen instead of max health. On that note, I think Perseverance being max health on PC is part of why Garen is so frustrating to fight. By level 9 or so, it becomes big enough to practically behave like a Warmog's passive, meaning he can charge at you, do a ton of damage, back off for a bit, and if you don't have a way to sustain yourself, he can go back in after he recovers and finish you off. Missing health at least makes it so he doesn't recover back to full health nearly as quickly. Speaking of finishing you off, we all know how Demacian Justice is one of the most unfair abilities in the game. Flash ult, no counterplay, right? Thankfully, we can at least breathe easy knowing that only one person has to die from it. That's how it is on PC, but on mobile, Garen's ultimate does AoE damage. Yeah, half damage on surrounding enemies, but still, AoE % missing health true damage. He can execute multiple targets at once. Panic-inducing as it may sound, I actually don't think it's as apocalyptic as it might seem. First off, the base damage is measurably lower. 350 plus 15% missing health at rank 3 compared to 450 plus 35% missing health. Garen can't one-shot you at half HP like he can on PC. That being said, the missing health component has 12% bonus AD scaling, so at 200 bonus AD or more, the missing health begins to actually matter, considering the old-fashioned Garen usually went 2 DPS items like Sterix and Black Cleaver or something else. Of course, we now have the crit spamming Garen, but Wild Rift Garen doesn't have the attack speed scaling on Judgment like we do on PC. That being said, if you're crazy enough to go full AD on Garen, then this version of Demacian Justice is absolutely better. AoE true damage executes should be banned by the Geneva Convention. Alrighty, so that's 12 champions and their Wild Rift counterparts. I definitely would not mind having a few of these on live servers. I especially enjoy Zyra, Nasus and Renekton, and NooNoo. What about you guys? Which of these do you think are worth porting over to League on PC? Let me know in the comments down below. That's it for today, so if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my Wild Rift episode 1 if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.